Hello everybody, here we are today and I'm going to be doing a video over 5 Stanley Cup Final matchups that I wouldn't mind seeing. So before we start with that, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So yes, this is just going to be 5 matchups that I thought I would enjoy watching, and I came up with these ideas at lunch as I have to be out of town tomorrow, so don't get too mad at me if your team isn't on here, but I try to just do one team for each matchup. And so we're going to be kicking off at number 5. We have the Los Angeles Kings versus the New York Rangers. This is a matchup that may not be super exciting. Everybody's been dogging on the Kings as of late about how they play hockey, but I look at it in terms of storylines. You're seeing a team that played the other side in the Rangers in 2014 in the Stanley Cup Final, and both of these teams, that's not that long ago, so I think the fan bases would be really involved in it, and I think it's something where you have some carryover. You're looking at guys like Drew Doughty, Anze Kopitar, and Chris Kreider. They have all been there for the 2014 Stanley Cup Final, so Kreider knows what it feels like to lose it. Kopitar and Doughty, of course, know what it feels like to win it. And then there's the other major storyline here where you're looking at Jonathan Quick. He won a lot of games with the Kings, won the Stanley Cup as well, and is now with the Rangers and is going to probably pass the all-time record for American goalie wins for passing Ryan Miller. And that's going to be with New York. But two, it'd be so fun to be able to see this guy revive his career after a half-decade of poor performances with a team that is a side he beat in a championship bout, and to see him possibly get the Rangers their first championship in 30 years would be something that I would really feel happy about. Now, if the Kings won it, well, I'm not a huge Kings fan. I'm not really a hater of the Kings either. I think for a like Kopitar, a player that I've really loved watching over his career, seeing somebody like him be able to get a third Stanley Cup would be really cool. And while this matchup may not be the juiciest or even really the most likely, as I don't know if the Kings will get there, maybe even not the Rangers, I wouldn't mind watching it. Now, coming in at number 4, we have the Colorado Avalanche and the Florida Panthers. This is a series that maybe not everybody would expect, but looking at this, you have two teams that have been in the Stanley Cup Final the past 2 seasons, as of course Colorado in 2022 and Florida in 2023. Colorado won one, Florida did not, and these are two sides that have been really good as of late. Colorado has a longer history of being good, whereas the Panthers, it's really more of the past 3 seasons, but over the past 3 seasons, these have been some of the best teams in hockey, some of the most exciting teams with some of the most exciting names on the roster. And for myself, I know I'd really be enticed to see how these guys would do. Also, you have two teams that I feel like were relatively aggressive at the trade deadline. I think Colorado did well. I've said that before. And I think Florida went out and got a guy like Tarasenko, especially, that is a bigger name in hockey. Maybe not the player that he once was, but still somebody that you knew was going to draw headlines. So there's plenty of huge names here. McKinnon, Barkov, Reinhart, etc. There is just so much you could talk about with this series. I think it'd be really fun to talk about legacies too. McKinnon and McCarr getting their second championships for the team would be big. And then looking at Florida, of course, you have a guy like Barkov that has been there for so long with the team. And then you have a situation where you have a guy like Sergei Bobrovsky that has been a goalie that is going to be probably top 10 in wins at the end of his career if things go well. Seeing him get a championship with his team, Paul Maurice, especially looking at him, it would just be a big talk about legacies and how they're boosted. And I do want to throw in the fact that by the end of all this, you're seeing two sides that have really got aggressive in the past few years. Florida's probably going to have some money issues after this year, trying to keep Reinhart and all that. And then McKinnon's deal, I believe, kicks in next season. Obviously, you've got some contracts there to talk about with Colorado, so who knows how much true competitiveness you're going to be able to have. There's still going to be good teams, but, next season, especially Florida, I think could look a little bit different. Then the third matchup we have here is the Carolina Hurricanes versus the Dallas Stars. This would probably not be a great, matchup in terms of ratings. But looking at this, I would be pretty preferential to seeing this. I have never been anti-hockey in the South. I feel like growing up for me, I've had a soft spot for a lot of the teams in the South because they were not necessarily stars. I know the Canes won a championship in 2006, which is the first one I can remember, so I'm sentimental to them. I think out of all the teams down south, Tampa Bay is probably the one that I'm least excited about, considering they've had so much success. But looking at both of these sides, they've been able to go on deep runs and just not been able to get there. Dallas made it to the Stanley Cup Final in 2020, haven't been able to get back since. The Hurricanes have been on some deep runs as well, but never been able to make it to the Stanley Cup Final with this core. So looking at it from me, you have two teams that have been on deep runs and are on the verge of getting there. So the question would be who actually gets there. So many good players on both sides here, and I think looking at the Dallas Stars, their future doesn't look bad. They've got a lot of younger guys, a lot of prospects that are coming up and continuing to impress. And you've got the Carolina Hurricanes that are a team that's been able to have good runs. Like I've said, I kind of talked about in yesterday's video that I'm not really sure how many more times you're going to be able to see Carolina go on deep runs. Some of the money could be an issue for them in the future, but they are going to have to probably make the most of their opportunities in the coming years. This series would be a battle of the South, and I know that, again, in Canada and probably around the US and some other areas, people would be a little bit less interested, but I see two good teams that I wouldn't mind turning the TV on for. And then coming in at number 2, you have the Edmonton Oilers versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. This would be a series that I think a lot of people would say, oh, well, the ratings aren't going to be good, especially in America, as it is in all Canada Cup. But to me, I just disagree. I don't think they'll be all-time great because, again, you want to have an American team in there. But you have to factor in the names here. Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid. Those are the two things where it really would be legacies of those two primarily competing against each other. But I want to emphasize here, you could not just undermine everybody else that's here on the teams. You have Marner, Nylander, you have Draisaitl, you have guys like Bouchard, and you have Hyman. Those are all really, really good players. And so for the series, I would just hate to see people say, oh, well, it's against these two. No, but they're going to play a big factor in this. And I'm really excited to see what could be a potential All-Canada Cup. Again, are you saying that it is likely? I can't really tell you, but I see a series where we have two really passionate fan bases, a rabid market in Canada that would be so excited for an All-Canada Cup, and a clash of two teams that have long Stanley Cup Final droughts where they've been able to not win for over 30 years. The Oilers haven't won since 1990, and then the Maple Leafs had the longest drought since 1967. Whoever wins here, it's going to be massive for what their career could be, and for like the Leafs, that would just be insane. Before McDavid, you could be able to say, yeah, remember when Eichel, the guy that was taken after me, won a cup last year? I just did it this year against Austin Matthews, a guy that is a perennial 60-goal scorer or contender to win it, and I just know this series would be so fun. And then at number 1, I'm going to be honest, this is pretty biased, and I don't really know if everybody would want to watch this. In fact, I think a lot of people would not be thrilled. The Boston Bruins versus Vancouver Canucks. Again, as a Canucks fan, I got to be a little bit biased here. I want to see them be able to go out there and win and be in a cup because, it's been a minute since 2011. But this would be a fun matchup too because the Bruins have been a good team over the past 15-ish years. They've gone to the Stanley Cup Final 3 times, whereas Vancouver has not been a good team in a while. And so it would really be interesting to see two teams you really didn't expect to be there at the start of the year. I know that I kind of undervalued what the Boston Bruins were going to be capable of as they lost, guys like Bergeron and David Krejci. Down the middle, I had a lot of questions, but if they were able to go on and win the Stanley Cup after those two, well, it would be bittersweet for a lot of their fans, especially people that aren't even Boston fans but are more Bergeron fans. Probably would sting, but it would be a testament to the guys in the locker room to say, not only did we win the President's Trophy last year and lose a lot of pieces, we backed it up with another President's Trophy maybe, and then won the Cup for the first time since 2011. That would really just be a good storyline. As for Vancouver, the expectations were not big going into the year. Myself included, I said that they weren't probably going to make the playoffs, and here they are now where they're going to hit 100 points for the first time in like 8-9 years. So to be able to be there in the playoffs and maybe even get the Stanley Cup Final if things go really well would just be really cool. And also, too, you have to factor in the whole 2011 Stanley Cup Final matchup where both of these sides met. I want vengeance. I want revenge. I want to be able to go out there and win the Cup. If they win, things are probably going to be pretty good. If they lose, the city will riot. And if I'm being honest, I really don't think I want the Canucks to go on to the final because I think if we lose, regardless of who it's to, I'll be crushed if it's a loss to Boston. I just can't even imagine. I think I either want us to lose in the first round so I can just get it over with, or I want them to go on to win the championship. So with this matchup here, you would have a lot of passion, two fan bases. Not a lot of people are big fans of outside of the fan bases, and the potential to have a really heated series where neither side has had a crazy amount of success in terms of championships. The Bruins have, I think, 6 over their entire history, only have one in like the past almost 50 years, and then Vancouver has only been in the Stanley Cup Final 3 times and never won it. So somebody's going to be coming out of this very happy. The other person is going to be very, very unhappy. So those are just 5 Stanley Cup Final matchups I'd like to see. If your team wasn't on here, don't be mad at me. I just made this during lunch. I ate lunch real quick and then try to get this done, because again, I'm going to be out of town tomorrow. So let me know some matchups you'd like to see. Let me know that stuff down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you love hockey, alright? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.